President, I rise to speak about the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA. The brave men and women who serve in our armed forces have protected our nation for generations. Because of their selflessness, we are able to enjoy many freedoms here at home. But it's important to remember that these liberties are not free. The sacrifices made by our service members are extraordinary, and we must ensure that they have the resources necessary and needed to defend the United States. That's why the NDAA has been passed each of the last 53 years. I was proud to continue this tradition by working with my colleagues on the Senate Armed Services Committee to pass the fiscal year 2016 NDAA only a few weeks ago. While this bill is not perfect, it is the result of a bipartisan compromise to perform the most important function of the federal government, providing for the national defense. This bill's importance is widely known, but the details are not often given enough attention. For this reason, I'd like to take a moment to discuss some of the key provisions that play such a critical role in preserving the security of our nation and the effectiveness of our military. Included in this bill are several common-sense proposals to cut inefficiencies and use the savings that are generated to better meet the needs of our war fighters. For example, the Air Force's Next Generation bomber and new tanker programs have both suffered delays, and they cannot spend the full amount requested when the budget was submitted in February. So this bill reduces funding for these programs accordingly and moves about $660 million in savings to meet unfunded requirements of our military. Across a large number of budget lines, unjustified increases were reduced, troubled programs were cut, and again, the difference was used to meet high-priority requirements of our men and women in uniform. The bill also combats the continued growth in headquarters staff at the Pentagon and major commands, an issue that I discussed with Secretary Carter at his confirmation hearing. 2 years ago, the department announced its intention to reduce 20% of its headquarters staffs by 2019. However, it has yet to provide the Armed Services Committee with a plan to accomplish these reductions. This legislation takes action, and it reduces funding for headquarters and management staff by 7.5%. This goes beyond even the department's stated goal, and it results in $1.7 billion in savings that are reprioritized to support more important needs. In all, the bill moves about $10 billion from unnecessary spending to increase the capabilities of our warfighters. One such area is the development of advanced technologies. This bill sets aside $400 million for the Offset Initiative, announced by the Department in November of last year. The technological superiority of our forces has come under increasing threat in recent years. This is an issue that the Emerging Threats and Capability Subcommittee, which I chair, has followed closely. The new funding devoted to this initiative is targeted towards the development of next-generation technology, such as lasers and railguns, that will enable our military's continued advantage on the battlefield of the future. I'm also pleased that this bill will fully support the modernization of our nuclear forces, and it includes additional funding requested by the department to address critical needs in our nuclear forces identified in reviews last year. The bill reauthorizes key assistance and training programs, and it also provides the Secretary of Defense new authority to partner with nations in the Middle East, South Pacific, and Eastern Europe to support U.S. interests in these key regions. It also codifies the Department of Defense's role in defending the nation in cyberspace, and it requires the Department to regularly conduct training exercises with other governmental agencies to meet this responsibility. The importance of the last two issues I mentioned, cybersecurity and security assistance programs, was reinforced during a recent trip that I led to Eastern Europe. Our allies there are deeply concerned by Russia's military intervention in Ukraine and their increasingly provocative behavior. They are all calling for more cooperation with the United States in both of these key areas. These are just a few of the reasons why the NDAA is such an important piece of legislation. While I strongly support many of its provisions, it is important to repeat that this is the product of bipartisan compromise, not consensus. One of the most hotly debated topics during the committee's markup process was the use of overseas contingency operation funds to meet basic defense requirements. In a world where ISIL continues to expand its reach, Russia has seized Crimea and pours fighters into eastern Ukraine, and China is intimidating its neighbors and building islands in the South China Sea, we must fund our national defense. To do so, to not do so, would be unacceptable. We cannot hold our military hostage to a political controversy. Despite disagreements, the committee has again produced a compromise product, as it has year after year, a product that supports our national defense and the needs of our men and women in uniform. I am inspired by their service, and I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues to protect our great nation as the full Senate considers the NDAA. Mr. President, I yield the floor.